All right. Welcome back to the channel. So we're going to finish up this little bit of last of this chapter 101 because I'm not finished with it, but I think this is all we're going to end up sharing is this wizardess Mazaroth sings a song written by her deceased husband Yah titled I Am a Spiritual Garden. Mazaroth and Yah happen to be the parents of this great guru called Berekyah, who actually wrote the Yoga Sutras that we have to this day, and it was a female, and so a lot of juice has been spilled. I hope you got to drink some of it, but we're gonna keep going. It says in the Megillah that the name of Berekyah's mother was Mazaroth, and that Mazaroth is a plural word that means all the scattered stars of the constellations. So it really doesn't say that here. It just says is a biblical Hebrew word found in the book of Job, whose precise meaning is uncertain, but its context is that of astronomical constellations. So they got part of it right. The Megillah says that it's a plural word and it means all the scattered stars of the constellations, and in her case, Berekyah's mother's case, it was an initiatic name linked to the fact that she was a noted astrologer of the Nasarean variety and was also an expert on the forms of astrology practiced in other traditions. So I'm like, wow. Especially her daughter was living in India, so you know they was probably communicating about the Vedic astrology and this Nasarean variety, which is pretty close to what I see in Stellarium. The Vedic is pretty close, but it's not the same. It's still different than this, what's being given to us in Stellarium. So a little bit more on her and then we're going to get started. But I did want to show you what it says in Job, because it blew my mind. Since this word is recorded in Job, maybe this entire little piece is all about her, Berekyah's mother, because look what it says. Canst thou bring forth Mazaroth in his season? It told us that Mazaroth is a plural word, so I guess they're saying constellation in his season. Canst thou bring forth Mazaroth in his season, or canst thou guide Achuras with his sons? Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set dominion thereof in the earth? Canst thou lift up thy voice to the clouds? That abundance of water may cover thee? Canst thou send lightnings that they may go and say unto thee, here we are? I bet you she could do all of that, because it says what it says about her in the Megillah. So, pretty interesting. Let's get a little bit of this song up here, and then I wanted to show you at the end what it says. It calls it a buck moon, okay? And I was like, wow, because in Stellarium, that's where she's at. The mama moon is on the buck. She's on the back of the horse where the horse be bucking at. So I was like, wow. When you look it up, it tells you that this is a good sign right now. This moon is believed to symbolize growth and gaining inner strength to overcome difficult obstacles or achieve difficult goals. So yeah, the full moon in July is called the buck moon because it coincides with the time when young male deer called bucks start to grow new antlers, which is what they say. But I say that where the full moon is in July looks like it's telling you it's a buck. They say the full moon is about release. So put those two and two together and you could just say bucket, right? 2 tears in a bucket. So this is looking up and up for me, because I've just let go of some old habits and I was struggling. I told you guys, and this is like, this full moon is my confirmation where it's at, you know, for me, what I see. So, all right. Now, let's go and read a little bit from this lady named Mazaroth, because, man, to get that type of name, you know she must have written something in the Megillah, man. I'm waiting now. I'm getting excited. She would have had to. I mean, well, we have Beit Jalah's journal, which is her daughter, who was sent to India. So you know they conversed a lot about the Vedic astrology. I'm going to read what else it says about her, and then we're going to get to her song. She was a noted astrologer of the Nasarean variety and was also an expert on the forms of astrology practiced in other traditions. Most of those traditions having borrowed from the Nasarean variety before being altered to fit the different cultures. Alright? And so it does say here that I also want you to know that the father of Beit Jalah, because he's the one who wrote this poem, his name was Yoreh, and that means enlightened by YHWH. He says he was a renowned wizard. So Beit Jalah came from a long line of wise ones. And I'm sure there's going to be more teachings from her throughout this Megillah, and so it's important that we understand who she was and who her mama and daddy was, and we got the whole scoop now. And I'm just so excited to be able to be learning these stories, man. And so, in an attitude of gratitude, this is nice, this is perfect, this is appropriate, I think. Looking at the full moon, haha, the mama moon, and while we read from this mother name all the scattered stars of the constellations, and because the moon represents the mother. And so let's just see how this flows. Forgive me, like I think I told you, I may skip some of the words in the song that are repetitive because I'm not singing it. I'm just gonna try to rhyme it and get it down. Alright, so we left off in verse 601 of chapter 101. It says, Mazarab, in a voice very sweet but also resonating with the wisdom of her years as a human woman, sang the following words written by her deceased husband, Yoreh the wizard. So here she goes. I am a garden of delight. And it repeats, I am a garden of delight. I am a spiritual garden. I am a spiritual garden. Before I harvest delight, I must work the soil. Before I harvest delight, I must work the soil. I am a spiritual garden. Oh, Jaja, my soul is your soil. My soul is your soil. She says, I am a spiritual garden. I am a spiritual garden. Oh, Jaja, help me work the soil. Help me work the soil. For my soul is your soil. My soul is your soil. I am a spiritual garden. I am a spiritual garden. For my soul is your soil. My soul is your soil. Help me, Jaja, pull the mental weeds. Help me, Jaja. Help me pull them mental weeds. For my soul is your soil. My soul is your soil. Help me, Jaja, plant good seeds. Help me, Jaja, plant good seeds, for my soul is your soil. My soul is your soil. I am a spiritual garden, the spiral ladder of being. I am a spiritual garden, the spiral ladder of being, for my soul is your soil. My soul is your soil. In me will you harvest. You will harvest white light. In me you will harvest white light. For my soul is your soil, and will be your delight. In me you will harvest white light. In me you will harvest white light. For my soul is your soil, and will be your delight. Nice, man. This is beautiful that her name is Mahabharata, and it does open the door for us to start thinking about the Nasarean variety of astrology and what that could be. What we're learning is that about the power of the mind and how the mind is like a garden, and all this stuff is really important, because all that I tell you guys, all that stuff that I'm trying to make the connections with the egregors, you know, I made a few videos on those subjects, the egregor, where it's a thought form, and how the narrative, stuff like Judas Iscariot, that means a man from Palestine, when it was really Judas the Sicarii, and there's a few other egregors, like the Gregorian calendar, like us, you know. Last but not least, I'll show you what it says, if it'll Google it up, because once I fix it and put in here, see, this is a long, I can't just put full moon in July 2025, because it won't tell me that it's in Sagittarius. You want to see? And then we're going to get out of here. Only reason I know it's in Sagittarius is because of the stellarium. But if I just put in, when I first did this, it tells you that the full moon in July 2025 occurs in Capricorn. So, man, and there's a perfectly good reason for that. Western astrology is not based on the sky as is, and if you didn't know that, neither did I when I first started finding all this out. Western astrology is based on the tilt, and so I got some news for their tilt though, because it's a spiral, so we don't need to compensate 25 point whatever degrees. We need to look up and know that it's as above, so below. So last but not least, I want to bring in the Vedic aspect of this whole entire astrological event, because I'm sure that Betanjalah's mother, Mazorath, and her collaborated, and even Betanjalah might have had some influence on the Vedic astrology, seeing how much of influence she had on those two monks. Now remember, if you didn't get to see those videos, those were two of the greatest yogis, scholars, and martial artists of their generation that had traveled with Betanjallah and were being influenced by the Nasarean teachings. So I think maybe some of the Vedic astrology itself could have been influenced, would have been influenced by Betanjallah, but was already influenced by Nasareans, those seed groups. So we don't have the time to get into it today, but in the Vedic astrology, they follow the moon, and so there's a lot of information about where the moon is and what's going on, and they have something that's like 28 mansions. Well, it says here 27 subsections called lunar mansions or nakshatras. So even though mainstream astrology is showing the full moon in Capricorn, to them and whatever system they're following, that must be what it looks like. But it's not on the 10th, so that's when it gets a little touchy, when they start saying that that it's in Capricorn on the 10th. Okay, so there's just like, take a little bits and pieces of it, right? But in the Vedic astrology, these lunar mansions, they go like this one. It's 20 degrees of Taurus and 6 degrees of Gemini, so it's in both signs, both constellations, and so that's a lunar mansion. So all I want to say is that there's no right or wrong, this astrology, that astrology. What we're going to need to do is take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a pinch of this and a dash of that, and put it all together, because everybody has a little piece of truth, and we all need each other. We don't need to argue, but my truth is right and yours is wrong. In Vedic astrology, so very interesting, and it has a lot of information, and it's telling you that it could be traced back 5,000 to 10,000 years BC, their astrology system. And if you haven't read chapter 28, you don't understand about the Nasarean seed groups that were sent out when old Kush was raised and became El Kush. That goes all the way back to what is called the fall. And at that time, Nasarean seed groups were sent out to all the distant lands. And so a lot of this information, a lot of this ancient information is Nasarean variety too, and it's just been altered and changed to fit. And one last word before we read from the Vedic aspect of this full moon. We're going to read back in the Megillah from Yogi Bhakti Samadhi. He says that in verse 589, it is my contention that the number one tool in the yogic tool shed is that of Bhakti Yoga. Yes, we have to use all of these tools, guys, and there's many, many more. So we can't just get stuck on, what they say in Western astrology, or what they say in Eastern astrology. We have to learn as much as we can. Quick read on the Vedic aspect, and then we're out of here. And so we're just going to read this. It might make the video long, I apologize, but we're going to read this because this is important about this full buck moon, July 2025. It says that it signifies a time of introspection, emotional awakening, and spiritual growth, influenced by significant planetary movements and retrogrades. So it's a lot of other stuff going on during this full moon. And remember, the full moon intensifies everything. So we've got a Saturn and Mercury retrograde. And then you can read what it says there if you like. We also have a Mars and Ketu conjunction. And that can heighten emotional intensity and may lead to confrontations or breakthroughs. It says it is essential to approach relationships with care during this time, as tensions may arise. So the full moon itself is a powerful time for emotional release and clarity in Vedic astrology. Full moons are often associated with culmination and completion, making it an excellent time to reflect on goals, emotional awakenings, and spiritual practices. I'm not going to read, you guys can read it if you want, but it says some recommendations are to pause and reflect and to embrace change. It says the full moon may bring about necessary changes in your life. Embrace these transformations as opportunities for growth and alignment with your true self. In verse 130 of chapter 74, the Lady Christ said, "Free yourselves from painful imbalance. Unite the feminine with the masculine within you and around you. Do this in remembrance of us, but also do this in remembrance of your true self." I love that. In summary, the full moon in July 2025 is a potent time for introspection, emotional clarity, and spiritual growth, influenced by significant astrological shifts. It encourages you to reflect on your path and embrace the changes that come your way. Yeah, I love the Vedic astrology. Had I not found the Holy Megillah, I probably would be more well versed in the Vedic astrology. I kind of just been studying only the Megillah, and I'm waiting now. I've been waiting for this Nasarean variety of astrology, and I'm sure that we've got more from Wizardess Mazaroth to come. So in the light of this full moon that's coming up, this full buck moon, let's do this. Buck that shit. All of that old paradigms, all of those false beliefs, all of those things that are not serving us, bad habits, all of that. Buck it. Two tears in a bucket, right? Free yourself of arrogance. Be thou relieved of that burden. Yes, amen. Don't be arrogant. Be thou relieved of that burden. Amen. Do this in remembrance of us. That's the Lord Christ and the Lady Christ. But also, do this in remembrance of your true self. And no, you weren't created with any of these baggages. Alright, so happy summer. I'll see you guys in a few weeks. Okay, thanks for watching.